Hey guys, good morning. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and early, 4 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. All right, I'm going to start this video off by telling you guys about a fault of mine. I don't know if it's a fault, but I do consider it a fault. I love movies. I'm a movie buff. But there's some movies that I put in. A lot of times they're non-fictional, that maybe they have to do with the Holocaust or slavery or the genocide of Native Americans. But there's a lot of times not a lot, but sometimes when I put a movie in and within the first 10 minutes, it's too heavy for me. It deals with something. A lot of times I watch movies for escapism and I'll shut the movie off and take it out because I just can't go there. I talk a lot about empathy on here, and I think I do have a very strong sense of empathy. And when I watch these movies, they affect me, they bother me, and they'll bother me for hours or days after I watch them. And there's sometimes I just can't do this, and I'll shut the movie off. This happened with the movie Harriet, the non-fictional story of Harriet Tubman. Okay, now I don't want to ruin the movie for you guys. I watched the first 10 minutes, and I know about slavery. I've learned about slavery, but in the first 10 minutes of this movie, the brutal reality, because I think, we don't realize the brutal reality of what happened during that period, the truth of it. And some of that was portrayed in the first 10 minutes, and I had to shut it off. I'm going to go back to it. I haven't yet. So I want to be honest with you guys, because I don't want to make it sound like I watched the whole movie. All right, in the first 10 minutes, now I don't want to ruin it. If you don't want to know what happened in the first 10 minutes, you might want to stop the video. All right, in the first 10 minutes, there was a slave couple. Now, because I didn't watch the rest of the movie, I'm not sure if this was Harriet Tubman's parents. It was probably her parents. They were standing in front of the slave owner on the porch, the grand porch in the South, and they were asking permission. I'm not even sure if it was to be married and or to have a child. And this just, right off the bat, it blew my mind. This never even occurred to me about children. About having children. Imagine being owned by somebody, being a slave, and having to actually ask permission. But it got worse. It got worse because the slave owner in this movie, then I believe she gave permission to the couple, but then she said how she would own their child and all their future siblings and their children, how she would own generations of this couple's family. And this just blew my mind. I couldn't go there at this. This happens. Like I said, this happens to me sometimes, and I had to shut the movie off. This would have ate at me. I would have been up for a couple nights, this stuff going through my mind. I'm going to go back and watch it. Like I said, I almost consider this a fault of mine because I'm kind of denying myself the whole movie and the whole story. I don't know. I don't know if it's because of empathy or whatever, but I feel it too strongly. It's too much for me at that moment. So I shut it off. All right. The reason I'm telling you guys all about this is because this woman called Mary Huckabay. Now she is the president of the National or the Women's Republican Committee in New Orleans. I might be getting that a little wrong. She's just in the last couple of days, she's been in the news. The Women's Republican Committee of New Orleans, I think it is. She's been in the news in the last couple of days, along with a lot of other Republicans. It seems like there's a lot of Republicans coming out and trying to talk about how slavery wasn't that bad. We've seen that with one of the Republicans talking about the 3/5 ruling that back when slaves were only counted, 3/5 of their vote was counted. And one of the Republicans came out recently and tried to spin that in a good way. That, well, hey, it led to the end of slavery or something along those lines. But Mary Huckabee, her statement, there was more. There's been 3 or 4 or 5 Republicans in the last week that have been seemingly defending slavery, and I assume this is because they're trying to, their worries about critical race theory or whatever. But anyway, Mary Huckabee, or Martha Huckabee, I believe. When I heard her comments, it blew my mind, and it brought me back to the beginning of the movie Harriet. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase here, but Miss Huckabee talked about the good things that happened during slavery, how these slaves, some of these slaves loved their masters and they loved living on the plantation. She said this. I'll put the links down below. And how the slaves, the masters loved their slaves, and how hundreds or thousands of beautiful babies were born to these slave couples during this period. And this just blew my mind. She's spinning this as a good thing. And it took me back to the first 10 minutes of that movie, when this couple was having to ask for permission to be a couple, not only to be a couple, but to have a child. And then the slave owner's response about how she was going to own their child, and not only just own their child, but own the child's child and generations to come. And I thought, you know, the horror of this, you know, and this is nonfiction, the movie Harriet, you know, and just the juxtaposition of these two things, Martha Huckabay and her unbelievable speech about how supposedly masters loved their slaves, and I can't even believe somebody said that. And how the beautiful babies were all born into this. I'll put the link down below. This is all I could talk about for right now because I didn't watch the rest of that movie. When I'm in a solid place, you know, and I can handle the heavy subject, I'm gonna go back and watch the movie Harriet all the way through. But I'm sure it brought up a good point, which I'm sure is the truth, that generations of people were born into slavery. I can't imagine that, of having a child and knowing that child is going to be owned. One other thing too, I started to look into, just a little bit, into the history, into the story of Harriet Tubman. And she suffered a lot of medical problems. One of the problems was because she was hit in the head by a heavy object that her master threw at another escaping slave, and it hit her in the head, causing brain injury, which was never treated, and she was put right back to work, and it caused her a lot of pain. And this is just one very small story or part of Harriet Tubman's life. And I think of the audacity, the unmitigated gall of all these Republicans, but this one in particular, trying to spin this story like how masters love their slaves and slaves love their masters. What a load of BS. I can't believe, you know, I can't believe the Republican Party is putting out this trash, and I can't believe that there's still people that belong to the Republican Party with all this nonsense. All right, I'll be back later with another video. You guys have a good Thursday.